for another episode of the Breakdowns and Breakaways podcast. I've been told that I say that like a very, very heavy yinzer. Breakdowns and Breakaways and that. I am Eddie Provident. This is Danny Shirey, and we've got the vibe train rolling, man. We are still going. 5 wins in a row for the Penguins, and they're clicking. We talked last week about Shirey's goaltending and how that needed to really be a thing, and he's been incredible. He's figured it out. Maybe he just needed some sense knocked into him, and Adam Henrique did that for us. The top line has been one of the best lines in hockey. The third line by expected goals has been still better than the second, but the second line's been great too. What are you seeing? I'm just jumping right into this because I'm so excited to have good hockey talk. And I didn't bring up the defense. I haven't even talked about Carlson. I haven't even talked about Pettersson. What are you seeing from the Pittsburgh Penguins, Danny, that is causing this resurgence out of, the last week or two? And is it sustainable?
Yes, I do believe it is sustainable. I'm going to backtrack on that a little bit, but even if you go back to the first, 6-7 games of the season when they didn't have a great record, the frustration wasn't that they were playing awful hockey the whole time. It was that they were playing pretty good hockey for large stretches, but then they had the same maddening habits that plagued them last season.
Exactly.
So even though, they had strong shares of shot attempts and expected goals throughout that stretch of games, it's like, all right, well, how much does that really matter if you guys are going to keep doing the same things that were hurting you last year?
Sure.
Well, now all of a sudden, when you got a few wins in your pocket and the same things are happening, all of a sudden you're ready to go. You're all fired up, and it feels like no team can stop them.
Sure.
So they already had a little bit of a foundation there that they were doing a lot of things well. And we talked about it on this show that, doesn't always matter if you're not getting the end result, but we do see wonkiness in those small samples. And this team, as we also talked about quite a bit, deserved a bit of time to try and figure things out. Now, granted, we've still seen the necessary changes by bringing Zahorna in for Jansen Harkins. Jeff Carter's out of the lineup, and Vinny Hinostroza's he's brought a pulse to that line.
He's playing good hockey, man.
He's playing decent hockey.
He's putting some points on the board.
Putting some points on the board. But just in a larger sense, beyond that foundation, I think what they've done to be able to kind of mitigate the risk in their game is the change that they've made to their neutral zone forecheck. Ever since Mike Sullivan took over, the Penguins have run an extremely aggressive neutral zone forecheck. It's a 1-2-2 through the neutral zone, but it's basically like an all gas, no brakes kind of thing.
Okay.
Starting with, I first saw it called out by Jack Hahn, hockey analyst, used to coach for the Toronto Marlies. I first saw him call it out when the Penguins were in Anaheim.
Okay.
But essentially what they were doing was they really toned down the forecheck. And instead of trying to, and again, they're still trying to push the pace up ice and cause turnovers when other teams are breaking the puck out. But instead of just the reckless abandon approach that they had previously, now they're sending the first forechecker in hard at the puck carrier. But then if you look, the other 4 skaters out there are forming a box through the neutral zone that's making it very, very difficult to transition through there. One of the things everybody talked about so much last year is that when other teams were in transition, it just felt like something bad was going to happen every single time. And a lot of the time that was because they had so much space and room to operate. And, it goes under the radar a lot, but the neutral zone is arguably the most important zone in hockey. Like, the team that's controlling the neutral zone is going to win a lot of games. So now that the Penguins are not allowing teams to carry the puck over unscathed, carrying it over multiple lines through the neutral zone, it really has helped them. And there's even instances where, they might not be killing plays at the opposing blue line or at the red line, and they might even be allowing some zone entries into their zone, but they're in good position to defend it after that entry and then attack from there. And it's been causing a lot of, teams are having to dump it and relinquish possession to have to go and try and chase the puck down. And the Penguins have been in good spots to jump on those pucks and break out So
I don't want to take any shine away from Tristan Jarry or take anything away from what he has done over the last week and a half, 2 weeks.
right.
Because I do think that he looks like a different goalie. I think with Jarry, he is one of those goalies that the less he's moving, the better he is. He's not an athletic goalie like a Dominic Hasek, where the more he's moving, the better he is. The less Jarry is moving, the more he's on his angles, the more efficient he moves. I think the better goalie that he is, and we've seen that from him. But also, do you think it's easier for him to do his job then with this system being implemented that you're talking about? Because I think it lends itself to a little bit more of a defensively sound and a defensively responsible game of hockey for the entire team.
I think there's no doubt about that at all. I mean, a lot of it would be a common thing for people, myself included, to be like, "Come on, Jarry, just make a save." Like the Penguins when they're playing.
We talked about that last week.
Yeah,
we'd love to see Jarry be the one to steal a game every once in a while, and we forget that he does that occasionally.
He does do that occasionally, and when the Penguins are playing that high risk style where they're spending 15 minutes of a period in the other end and then one counter attack the other way and the puck's in the back of the net, well, all of a sudden now they're cutting those counterattacks pretty much out of the equation entirely. Now, granted that they're going to happen throughout the course of the season. It's hockey. And
everyone gives them up. Yeah,
we even saw it last night in when the Penguins were in Columbus against the Jackets. Malkin carried the puck across the offensive blue line and basically just tried to challenge 3 Blue Jackets right inside the line, and he turned the puck over. Yeah. They counterattacked quickly. Ricard Raquel looked like he had sandbags around his skates and wasn't all that interested in getting back. They rushed down the ice. Ryan Shea got walked, and then all of a sudden the puck's in the back of the net. So that is going to happen. Mm-hmm. But I think the rate at which we see the Penguins allowing these odd man rushes and those really like maddening chances after they have been controlling play for so long, I think that we are going to see a lot less of those. And yes, it absolutely is going to help Jarry.
Yeah. And the other thing that I want to point out is it seems like this type of game that they've been playing has really elevated the play of the third and fourth line. I think we all know that it has something to do with, I'm not even going to say the name, just different deployment. But I think that especially that third line, when you look at the way that they are on the ice and you look at the way that they're navigating themselves around the neutral zone and when they do forecheck, when they pick their spots, they just seem so much more comfortable. They seem like they're not playing with a lot of pressure right now. They're playing a little bit more of a loose, free game, and I mean that in a good way. And it's translating. Lars Eller has been very effective. O'Connor got on the score sheet the other night. We're seeing things from this third line that we had talked about at the beginning of the season. This is what the Penguins need to make it to that next level, to make the next step. They need the secondary scoring. It can't all be on, Sid and Gino and Letang and Carlson, which we'll talk about them. We're not going to not talk about them, but it can't be all on their shoulders, especially in their mid and late 30s. And so seeing the third line do what they've been doing, and now seeing the fourth line, especially Vinny Heinestrose, like you said, they're doing more than just not screw it up. We talk about that. We've talked about it a few times. Just don't screw it up with the fourth line. Well, they're doing more than that right now. And that's really encouraging to see.
Even if you're looking beyond production, because I know we were talking about it when the fourth line hadn't scored a goal all season while Carter was in the lineup.
Yeah, and they only let up one. So.
Yeah, but we're like, you got to score at some point. Yes, that's true. You're not really looking at the point totals for those guys too much unless it is a giant goose egg. But even regardless of the scoring that they've brought to the table of late, as I keep thinking back to this play that Hinostroza made in the Sabres game last Saturday. It was just a really casual play where the Penguins were breaking the puck out of the zone, and Hinostroza, right after he's coming out of the D zone, he's coming up from the right wing, but he just cuts right through this open pocket in the middle of the ice, caught a pass, and all of a sudden he's cutting right through the D. And granted, it's Hinostroza. He doesn't have the greatest hands in the world. So he wasn't able to make like some gargantuan effort play that resulted in a goal. But how nice was it to see a fourth line winger flying through the middle, catching a pass in stride and driving in and putting a backhand shot on goal. It was really nice to see.
Yeah, those are the things that make me think that this is sustainable. That this isn't just, now granted, I'm going to say this, but it is happening. It's not just Crosby being Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin playing some of the best hockey he's played in a while. And, Erik Karlsson doing Erik Karlsson type things. It's not just that. We're seeing Gensel get to his game. We're seeing Rust play some incredible hockey. We're seeing Riley Smith play good hockey. I would even venture to say that even though we're not seeing it on the score sheet yet, Raquel has been better. We're not, again, I don't think he's cashed in yet, but he's not. I don't think 3 points right now is what he has, 3 assists. So. I don't think that is indicative to the play that he's had on this team. It's almost as if this entire roster has bought into what Mike Sullivan is selling now. And we're seeing that, and we're seeing it with confidence.
There's no question that the team is buying in, and you're even seeing that with players like Evgeny Malkin, who we know has a tendency to go off the grid a little bit and go about things his own way. It's always been about not neutering that aspect of his game while still trying to get him to play within some semblance of a team structure. There was a play last night, and this is kind of going back to the forecheck adjustments
Tuesday
that I was
night,
touching on earlier, but there was a play, Malkin, I don't know if he had skated the puck into the zone under pressure. He didn't really have a lot of puck support, or he was chasing a puck down along like the half wall. But essentially he didn't get possession of the puck, and he kind of had like weird momentum and balance, and he was kind of spinning around a little bit. Anyway, the Blue Jackets skater gained possession, and they started to retreat behind their own net. I don't know who was out there at the time with him, but whoever was playing left wing with him had already kind of assumed the role of F1 to go. They were coming from the weak side of the ice, but they were assuming the role of F1 to kind of apply forechecking pressure on I believe it was a defenseman who was retreating behind the net. In the past, 10 out of 10 times, it was a situation where, regardless of whether he should or not, you would see Malkin just follow that defenseman back into the zone behind the net anyway.
Right.
And then the Penguins have 2 skaters at the opposite red line, and then it's a 4-on-2 or 4-on-3 the other way. My jaw almost dropped last night when this play happened, because I was fully expecting Malkin to do what he typically does and follow the puck carrier deep into the zone. And you could see him kind of think about it for a second, and then he just didn't, and he just went straight back to his spot in the neutral zone to form that little 2-2 box. So there's no question that this team is buying in, and the most important people, being the core,
are buying in. Now that's where I want to put a pause on this conversation, and I want to pivot. And as much as I know we want to talk about Erik Karlsson, and we can talk about Marcus Pettersson as well and the way he's been defensively, and we could talk about the third line and the fourth line, I want to stick with Evgeny Malkin, and I want to talk about Sidney Crosby, because as they go, the Penguins go. And right now, both of them are on over 100-point paces for the season. Sid just, did he tie or did he pass up Guy Lafleur for?
I believe
he tied, right?
Tied.
Yeah, so tied Guy Lafleur for 27th all-time in scoring with 560 goals. What is it about these two? We've had so many pieces written about them and documentaries and, quick deep dive videos, that kind of stuff. But why at this age are they still doing what they've done their entire career? Why do they look better than they have in the last few years right now? What is happening with these two? They should be doing this, and at minimum, they're staying level, if not playing better than I've seen them play. One, so what is it? And two, how rare is this for us to see something like this from two players?
Well, to answer the second part, it's extremely rare. It's an anomaly. I mean, I was watching the Blue Jackets broadcast when they played them, and they showed a graphic. And I know everybody knows this, but they showed the graphic of Crosby, Malkin, Letang have been playing together for 18 seasons, and that's the longest streak in professional sports history of a trio of teammates playing together that long.
Do you know who they passed up?
Yes, it was.
I thought I was going to get you. Dang it.
Derek Jeter, Jorge Posada, and Mariano Rivera, if I'm correct.
I really thought I had you there.
Yeah. I know my baseball.
Okay. All right.
A little bit.
Anyways.
So, yes, it's extremely rare. Should not be expected. And again, I have been saying it for several years now, but that's why you got to just take a second to really appreciate what these guys are doing, because there is going to come a point in time, and it's probably going to be at the snap of a finger when you're like, oh crap, like Crosby's not that point per game guy anymore. Obviously he is now, and I'm not saying that that's going to come later this year or even next year, but there's going to be a point in time where it's gone and you're never going to get it back, and you're going to wish that you could just watch him do that one more time. I mean, I didn't get to see much of Lemieux at all. I mean, the first year I really watched hockey was Crosby's.
So say, how old are you?
I'm 25.
Yeah,
so.
all right. I got to see enough of Lemieux to where, Lemieux and Jágr I put this on Twitter the other day when they announced Jágr's jersey retirement ceremony. Lemieux and Jágr are the reason why I fell in love with hockey. I mean, obviously my dad had a hockey stick in my hand when I was 2 or 3 years old, but with that being said, getting to see Mario Lemieux and Jaromir Jágr play and catching the tail end of Lemieux's prime, I think one of the craziest memories I have of hockey, and I wasn't even at the arena for it, I just remember watching it on TV, was Lemieux's first game back against the Maple Leafs, and just the electricity in the air in the city. It was just something that I don't really remember seeing happen. And that is what I bring that up, because seeing Evgeny Malkin and Sidney Crosby do what they're doing for so long, and just every year us expecting, okay, well, they're probably going to drop off this year. It's safe to assume that they're this old. It's been fun. It's nothing personal against them, but it's just they're going to finally start dipping, and they just don't. This team could lose every game this year, and I would be frustrated, and obviously, but to appreciate Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin, getting to see them on the ice together, and Chris Letang as well. I don't want to leave Chris Letang out. I never take it for granted, and I do not underappreciate what that means for a hockey fan.
Yeah, I mean, I know I keep mentioning the Columbus game, but that's a perfect example of what you just said. How many times have we watched Crosby walk into Nationwide Arena and dominate the Blue Jackets? And
I was there for a 6-1 win where he had a hat trick. He had 3 goals, no assists, but still, like 6-1, he had a hat trick. I was in college, and our hotel room got robbed right after. But,
very good.
Yeah. But no, just those are the memories. The other one I remember, walk down memory lane apparently. The last game that I went to at the Civic Arena, Mellon Arena, was the 6 or 7-1 win against the Montreal Canadiens, where Sid had a hat trick that year. And I remember, I knew that was going to be my last game there. I just remember sitting there afterwards, just soaking it all in and thinking, I got to see Sid hit a hat trick at the arena one last time. And it was,
I mean, that's kind of how I felt watching Crosby's hat trick against the Jackets. Like when he was burying that empty netter, and you see it's so funny. I was actually in attendance. I think it was 2 seasons ago when he had a hat trick in Columbus. Was that the same game?
No, this was back in college. Rick Nash was still playing for the Jackets when I went.
But anyway, I remember watching last night when I saw that empty netter going in the back of the net. I'm just like, man, how many? This is one of the. I mean, he's only got 13 hat tricks in his career, 16 hat tricks in his career, something like that. So, he'll probably have another hat trick in his career. But specifically, and I've got a little bit of bias there because I'm from Columbus, and I've been to a lot of Jackets games and pretty much all of the Penguins games that were in Columbus. But just sitting there watching him and really relishing in the fact that, man, he's still doing this. And I tweeted this out after the game, but 36-year-old Crosby, as you mentioned, not only on pace for well over 100 points.
I think it's 111.
It's 111 points.
Yeah.
Beyond that, when he is on the ice at 5-on-5, we're going to get some fancy stats out for our people here. When Sidney Crosby is on the ice at 5-on-5 this season, the Penguins are generating an astronomical number of expected goals. That figure varies from whether you're looking at Natural Stat Trick or JFresh's model or Evolving Hockey or Hockey Viz, but I typically, for my analysis, I'm using Evolving Hockey, and Evolving Hockey says that when Crosby is on the ice, the Penguins are generating more expected goals than when any other player is on the ice in the entire NHL. So
this might not be fair to put you on the spot like this. Go ahead. Why?
Because he's Sidney fucking Crosby.
Okay, but why? Like, what is Sidney Crosby doing that? How do I frame this question?
Okay, I know what you're trying to ask me. I think it's not really what he's doing. It's that he hasn't stopped doing what's made him great. Like there's nothing really insightful for me to answer here because he's doing the same things that's always made him great. And really the big thing is that he hasn't had that giant fall off a cliff kind of thing.
But yeah, I guess that's what I want to dig into a little bit because I think that the average casual hockey fan, and especially I do want to shout out the NHL and ESPN and how they've been marketing the game lately. So there's definitely new hockey player or new hockey fans, or the average hockey fan that maybe is trying to get into it a little bit more. When he's on the ice, like how is he thinking the game, I guess, or like what spots is he going to? What is he getting at on the ice that causes him to be that effective constantly?
So you don't see it as much now later in his career, but you still see it quite a bit. He'll kind of just start to drift or go toward a certain spot, and you're watching him and you're like, where the heck are you going? Mm-hmm. And then 2 seconds later, the puck's on his stick and he's putting it in the back of the net from a ridiculous angle. The way, and I'm probably about to run through a whole bunch of cliches here, so pardon me for that, but the vision that he has and the way that he sees the ice, like he legitimately is one step ahead of everybody else that's out there the majority of the time. And I'm when we get home from here, I'm actually planning to do a video breakdown on this. But the 2 goals that he scored against the Blue Jackets with a goalie actually in the net, both of them were perfect examples of him getting lost behind the net. And that's something that's such a simple, like anybody can pick it up kind of thing, but it's all about the timing of it and when you're doing it. Mm-hmm. And knowing that, okay, I see my defenseman pinching over there at the half wall with no winger support. I probably shouldn't be looping behind the net at this kind of time. So he just has a ridiculous ability to end up in the right spots at the right time. But it's the physical tools too, man. Like you look at the NHL Edge data that they have, and you see that he's skating as fast or maybe even a little bit faster than he has the previous 2 seasons. He's still got tree trunks for legs and can protect the puck. Like
that's the one for me that, like, when I watch his game, the way that he's able to manipulate his body on his skates. I like to because I've learned it from several very smart hockey people, but I refer to that as improving the condition of the puck. And that's what so many of the great players are able to do. Like I tweeted out, did you see that ridiculous goal that Bedard scored? Yes, I did.
So that was a great example of improving the condition of the puck. You'll see a lot of players in that spot, and I'm sorry for any of our audience who hasn't seen that goal. If you haven't, go find it. Yeah, it was a goal against the Panthers.
Yeah,
but essentially, a lot of players in that spot, they're going to try and reach for that puck that's out. So I got to walk through here because I'll feel like a goober for just saying this otherwise. But Bedard's going in on the forecheck, one-on-one toward the face-off circle, basically strips the puck from the carrier, and the puck's kind of going out in front of him and away from him toward the goal. In that spot, you'll see the vast majority of players, they'll try and corral the puck with their stick, maybe stick handle here and there to get it in the spot that they want it, and then they'll shoot. Bedard, on the other hand, he contorted his body, and it wasn't some like crazy maneuver or anything. It was a quick heel-to-heel move, but he positioned his body and contorted his body so that he had all of his momentum taking him into the puck with his stick position so that he didn't have to do any stick handling or even move the puck at all. He just went right into the puck and shot it. And that's a perfect example of improving the condition of the puck. And that's something that Crosby to this day still does extremely well.
Yeah, I would argue that his positioning, like with the puck, the improvement of the position of the puck, he may do that better than anyone that I've ever seen in my time watching hockey. I can't think of anybody off the top of my head that I would say is better than him at that. There's a lot of YouTube videos out there. One in particular, I'm sure you've seen it. Is it LaFlamme?
Yeah.
Does the edge work.
Those are great.
Dude, the edge work video, for anybody new to hockey, just how he manipulates his skate angles, basically, I guess would be the best way of explaining it for somebody on my level. It is absolutely unreal because these videos break down, like, they're not always goals. Sometimes it's just something that a casual fan probably wouldn't catch.
Right.
But good Lord, he's just different, man. And, we spent a lot of time, and we got to wrap up a quick episode today. We've spent a lot of time on Sid, but you talked about Gino with the buy-in and how I think that what we're seeing from Gino is probably some of the best all-around hockey that he has played in his career. I mean, he is so much more defensive responsible than better defensively,
more defensively responsible.
Yeah, whatever I'm trying to say. It's been a long day.
Well, like I said earlier about that play where he didn't chase the guy
he's
down.
He's giving it the extra thought and doing making the right decision. Probably the most responsible decision, not to keep using that word, but we're seeing this, from the two of them, and it's just, man. And then you add on that Karlsson's finally start looking like he's feeling comfortable on this team and getting to what makes him special. And, it's almost like Chris Letang's an afterthought now because you've got those three, but
it's funny. You see Letang out on the ice now,
yeah.
And it's not like oh God, Letang's out there, but you're like, oh, Letang's out there. It's like,
but like, he hasn't really lost a step either. I mean, he still looks and is playing good hockey.
I don't think he's been bringing like an overwhelmingly significant offensive game, but I think he's been doing
to anymore.
No, well, that's exactly right. I think he's been doing a much better job of playing within himself.
Yeah.
And I definitely think there's some merit there to suggest that he doesn't feel like he has to make all these ridiculous plays in one-on-one spaces at his own blue line.
Yeah.
Because he has Erik Karlsson now.
And again, we talked about this at the beginning of the season. With the way they're deploying Karlsson and Letang, I don't see them getting tired in the towards the end of the season, because those two are used to playing so many minutes and they're not, like, they don't have to if they don't, there's going to be games where they do for sure. But
there's also been some games this year, like you look at the San Jose blowout, or even if they're winning, by multiple goals heading into the third period, they don't have to play them 24 minutes. Like I think there was a game or two where like Karlsson and Letang were both around 20 minutes. I think there was another
those are the things that are going to matter in March and April. Because if you can keep those guys fresh, if you can keep Sid and Gino fresh, when you get into the playoffs, the way this team is going to make a run, if they're going to, is with all of those guys healthy and fresh and ready to roll. And, we can relitigate arguments about, should you rest players and should you not, and that kind of thing. I think hockey culture is going to tell you don't. I disagree, but still, if you can find ways, like you just talked about, to keep these guys fresh and give them some extra ticks of rest. This team's now we talked about sustainability. This all looks a lot more sustainable when those guys are not getting taxed night in and night out. And, stacking wins together, that's a big deal. That's a big thing. If Thursday night if they can somehow pull a win off against New Jersey, I think they're really setting themselves up for for a run here. I mean, they're already on one, but it's a big game. It's a big game Thursday night.
Yeah, I mean, if they win that game, you're already kind of superseding the high point of last season, aren't you? Mm-hmm. And I know there's a long season to go. There's going to be injuries along the way. Raquel's going to bust out of his goal drought and somebody else is going to fall into a goal drought. Like, there is plenty of adversity on the way. And just as it was when things felt bad and those weren't going to continue, right now everybody's riding high and things are feeling good. That's not going to continue to this degree either. But as I think you and I have done a relatively decent job of throughout this episode of kind of laying the foundation that there is a pretty decent chance of this team maybe not looking like the absolute best team in the league by the time it's all said and done at the end of the regular season, but
better than where they were at the end of last season.
Better, well, obviously that, but I'm, and especially there's just a lot of like mid in the NA. We're just starting to see that. Like, we see that in the NFL now.
Yeah.
I don't keep up with the NBA a ton until the postseason rolls around, so I'm not really qualified to speak there. But like, looking around the Eastern Conference, if the Penguins continue to capture some semblance of the game that they've had over this winning streak, like I would put them up against pretty much anyone in the East.
The wild card with the Penguins, and I think this is why nobody wants to see them in a playoff series, is they have so much experience that they know what to do in a 7-game series. They know how to manage a 7-game series. And I'm not saying that the Devils, we'll just take them, for example, since the Pens play them on Thursday night. I'm not saying that the Devils aren't a better roster than the Penguins, and I'm not saying that they don't have more skill. But what I am saying is those young guys don't have the experience that the Penguins do in a 7-game series where there's going to be some bumps and bruises and you're going to learn things over that 7 games that you can, it's a different animal when you get to playoff hockey. So all that said, vibes are better.
The vibes are good. We're on a positive streak.
Good positive hockey talk episodes in the bank now. Guess we'll be back next week, and Thanksgiving.
Eddie and I you and I will figure that out.
We'll discuss it
later,
and we'll come up with something.
Yeah, maybe we'll try and record earlier in the week, or maybe
we'll see what happens. Yeah, but happy Thanksgiving if we don't. If we do, we'll see you next week. For Danny Shirey, I'm Eddie Provident. This is the Breakdowns and Breakaways podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, all that fun stuff, and we'll see you later.